I love living at the Haven.
For the first time, I was happy.
You can have fun without drugs and alcohol.
I was 15 years old. My friends and I were all camping at the Kern River, and this girl who was at the campsite next door to us stole a bottle of Beefeater gin from her parents, and I took a swig of that gin, and I remember the feeling of the warmth going down, and all that whole cage of fear and anxiety and not being good enough collapsed. And I understood why people drank. I was like, oh, this all makes sense now. And I knew from that moment that this was something that I had to do, that the rest of my life was going to be focused on drinking and then arranging all the pieces together so I can do that. My life then bifurcated. On the one side, I was very academic. I was straight A student. I ended up graduating valedictorian of my high school, #1 out of 640 kids. On the other hand, I was totally let go, partying, having bonfires, and waking up across town and drinking until I puked. So I graduated and I went to college, and I still tried hard in school, but I remember my first couple quarters and I got C's and B's and D's, and for a straight A student, this was catastrophic. I had an inkling that maybe if I didn't drink, I could do better and focus, but that wasn't even an option because I felt like it was my right to drink. And then because of the people I started surrounding myself with in college, I ended up getting to introduce to other drugs like cocaine and then ecstasy and Xanax, and then one thing sort of led to another. I didn't wake up one day as a pre-med student and decide that I wanted to be a heroin addict and smoke lots of crystal meth. So I ended up getting kicked out of my frat house, and at that point I was drinking Jack Daniels and smoking meth and smoking heroin all day, every day. When I had these brief moments of sobriety, or at least when I wake up and I feel so much guilt and so much overwhelming shame and self-loathing that I immediately had to get drink and use again as quickly as possible in order to escape that feeling. And at this point, I was only 22, and I had done 8 years of hard drinking and several years of hard drug using, and I had totally destroyed everything. But I wasn't really free until the moment that I had totally surrendered and given up on the idea that I could do it on my own, because I was always pushing for the idea that somehow I'd be able to fix it, but I had to let that go and surrender. And I started working the 12 steps, and ultimately I found my way to the Haven, which was an amazing place that I didn't think was possible, because here I was surrounded with students who were in the same predicament that I was. We had done all the partying, we were over it. We were trying to go back to school, and we still want to be social. For a normal college student, if they drink, that's fine, they just have one more hangover. For me, that could mean death. Sobriety changes you, and you start being more responsible, and you actually get to grow up because you're present for everything that's happening in your life.
Students can now address drug and alcohol issues on college campuses 3 effective ways at the Haven: mentoring and monitoring program, outpatient centers, and recovery residences. Get back on a college track immediately at premier universities across the U.S. Call or text today